Hello and welcome to another episode here at West Coast Dogman Project. I'm your host, Shane Michael Crisp, and I'm honored to have tonight Al Santariga with us. Al, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey Shane, thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, no, this is truly an honor. And, just reading about your stuff, and you're pretty much, Tom Cardos called me the West Coast aficionado last week when I did an interview with him. And, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I've got like 6 groups, but dude, looking at your laundry list of stuff, you are the New York version aficionado.
I, I I think Tom was the one who labeled me the Squatch Father.
The Squatch Father. No, I was gonna say, just your 50 years. I mean, you have over 50 years of experience in all aspects of the paranormal field and cryptid field. I mean, you're the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society, director of the New York State UFO Project, director of the New York State Sasquatch Organization, director of the New York State Dogman Project. You're an ex-podcaster and co-host of the critically acclaimed Beyond the Realm digital radio network show. So I was gonna say, that's wow.
Yeah, we did a lot of shit. Yeah, I did a lot of shit. Brian, my partner Brian, he sucks me. He volunteers me for everything. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, we'll do that. Al, we're doing this. I was like, what do you mean we're doing this? Like, no, I volunteered you. We're doing this. So it's like,
like you don't get a choice.
I'm easy. You know what I mean? Because he knows how I am, and I love all this shit. You know what I mean? So like Brian, the only thing I don't play with is demonic shit. Anything that's above my pay grade. And people come to me with like experiences because I got into this originally. My brother's a parapsychologist, okay, and he's been doing this for like 70 years, okay.
Oh wow!
And yeah, my brother, and he's got a book out and all kinds of stuff. And so in my growing up in my house, the books were always around. Everything, Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, Bigfoot, whatever you think of. My brother had like a whole library worth of shit, you know what I mean? And so as soon as he finished reading it, I started reading it, and my mom was like, she would have premonitions. My mom, no matter if she was in Florida visiting my sister or in Italy visiting my relatives, something happened in the family, they always came to my mother. And then my mother would call New York and say, go check on this one or go check on that one. I just had a dream, and my mother, everybody, even like friends of the family, when they passed, they went to my mother. Don't ask me why. My father would make her sleep in another room because she would talk all night in her sleep. And he worked construction. He said, I got to get up in the fucking morning. You know what I mean? You got to go sleep in another room,
Sleep on the couch or something.
Right? We with me and my mother and father, we had 3 bedrooms,
Mom's got her own room.
Only because my mother would talk all night and she didn't even know, she didn't know she was talking all night because she was in sleep. But, I mean, when my first ghostly apparition was my grandmother at 5 years old. My grandmother passed. I got her bed, and she came to me every night for like a week after she passed to tuck me in, and she only spoke Italian. And I would tell my father like, get the hell out of here. We just buried her, and my mother would say, okay, I understand, and so that was, that's how it all got started. And then as time went on, I was hearing a lot of stories about paranormal stuff, you know what I mean? And a lot of people didn't know where to turn, and a lot of people were getting hosed, you know what I mean? People were like, they were taking it, they're charging people to do shit and all kinds of stuff. And people weren't even doing it right. And so I started the team. My brother said, you should start a team, and I said, okay. And I basically started the Bronxville Paranormal Society, BPS, as we call it. Just to help people who didn't know where to turn, and I don't charge anybody for my services. If you want to donate cash for supplies that we need to do the job, I'm all for that. But I never charge anybody for anything. And because, people were getting charged a lot of money for cleansings and stuff that, didn't work, or they didn't know what they were doing. And I was like, no, that's not right, man. I mean, if you're going to get into this and you're going to help people, you should do it for the right reason, not to screw them out of a few dollars. You know what I mean?
That I totally agree with, brother. That's like even when I try to, I sell merchandise like shirts and stuff, but I
Yeah.
sell them at cost. I'm not trying to profit off this or anything. When we drive, 2 hours to go investigate looking for Dogman, that we're using our own gas. We're not using donations or anything like that. So, like I
Yeah.
say, I send people the receipt. Look, it cost me $19 to make the shirt. $5 was for shipping. Well, it's $24. Here's your shirt.
Yeah, no,
So,
I
but no,
mean,
I understand.
well, yeah, all of our equipment we bought ourselves. You know what I mean? It came out of our pockets. We're working class people. We don't have a TV budget. You know what I mean? And gas to travel to the tri-state area. We try to take care of it. To try New Jersey and Connecticut and Long Island. So we do a lot of driving and. I mean, there's tolls involved. New York is a
Oh yeah.
nightmare. Just to go over the bridge to go to like Long Island, it's like the toll is like $20 each way.
Oh
So
dang.
yeah, it's insane. But
I thought
but
a
you
$10
know,
one over here was a lot. But
no,
man.
not like New York, man. But well, yeah, maybe in Northern California. But anyway, so we got into it for helping people and stuff. So that's how it all got started. And then we were going to symposiums. We're getting invited to symposiums, and we met a lot of great people. And whenever I'm at a symposium, I'm picking people's brains. Hey, could I ask you a question? That's like my famous last line. Hey, could I ask you a question? I swear to
You
God,
should
everybody.
trademark it, make a shirt out of it.
Everybody laughs when I say that because they know I'm going to say that anyway. And the famous last question. I'm like Columbo. I got one more question for you.
One more question.
Yeah, but so then what happened? We started getting invited to different symposiums, and we were just going as the Bronxville Paranormal Society, even if it was a UFO thing or it's and then we were catching a lot of slack from the groups there. What is it? Ghost hunters know about Bigfoot. What do Bigfooters know about UFOs? So Brian said, why don't we just branch off into all these different groups? This way we'll have a banner for every symposium we go to. We won't have to worry about fighting with other people and all other groups that are here. And that'll be it. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's just do it and get it over with. And it saved us a lot of aggravation at symposiums and shit, But I'll be honest with you, half of the symposiums we went to, whether it was UFOs, cryptids, or ghosts, we knew more shit than half of the people there. You know what I mean?
Oh, because your guys are boots on the ground researchers,
yeah,
right?
that's
Those
it.
guys are just looking for 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, I mean, I look, I'm all about boots on the ground. I don't call myself a researcher. I'm more of an investigator, experiencer.
Exactly.
Yes, I do a little research every now and then when I need to know something. I got to research it. Brian is more researcher than I am. He could find shit in like 1 second that takes me all day to find, But I swear
He's the tech guru, isn't he?
I am not tech savvy, believe me. But but like I said, I dragged him out with me for years, so he volunteers me for everything. So it's a equal, very equal relationship. But I know you wanted to talk about my Thunderbird sighting.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But I had a question real quick for you. How long have you and Brian been researching together?
Man, I'm gonna say, I didn't log down the first date we got together, but I'm gonna say somewhere between 10 and 15 years, I would think, because
wow, okay, so a long time.
We researched, we were part of another group before I ever started my team. So I was part of that group for like 5 years. And me and Brian just clicked. You know what I mean? There was just something about our personalities. We just clicked. So we were always, and so, with us hanging out with the original group that we were with, and then starting the BPS team from that group, I picked people out of that team, out of that group to be on my team, and so it's got to be between 10 and I would say 10 and 15 years, but I don't have the exact date down or anything like that. I'm terrible at dating shit, and Brian's like, you got to write everything down. I was like, yeah, don't worry about it.
No, we'll just say 10, 15. But, that's cool though, man.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, before we get into the Thunderbird story, I just want to give a shout out to everyone that showed up.
Absolutely.
Laura, thank you for coming on. Tom Cardos, thanks for joining, brother. Let's see, Anthony Canatella.
Anthony.
Yeah, good old Anthony. Let's see, Lisa, my wife's on. Thanks for joining, babe. Robbie Rains said, "Hey everyone." Let's see. I think there was one more. I thought I saw somebody else down there. Oh, Nighthawk, Thomas or William
Oh,
Nighthawk.
William's
Thanks for
cool
joining,
guy.
brother.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and David from Texas. Thanks for
Oh,
joining, brother.
Dave's a good guy. Yeah.
Good. He's a good guy, man. But yeah, so let's jump into the Thunderbird, man. I'm truly intrigued by this because you don't really hear a lot about Thunderbirds. You just think maybe that's just more native lore, and some people confuse it with. But this is an actual Thunderbird you saw.
Dude, let me tell you something. When I was a kid growing up down in the city, you didn't swim in the Hudson River.
Mhm.
You didn't eat any fish that came out of the Hudson River. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The river was so polluted in the 70s. Now, with all this environmental stuff going on, the river is amazing. Okay. We had humpback whales in the river just the other day.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
In the
a
Hudson,
bunch. Yeah, in the Hudson River, like right where the Atlantic hits the Hudson, like where it's still a little salt water, and we had humpback whales. So we're seeing all kinds of shit in the river now. And I told my son-in-law, he's a big fisherman, he's the guy that takes me out. I said it's just a matter of time before we start seeing sharks in the river again.
Oh,
I said
wow.
we're gonna see tiger sharks, or we're gonna see hammerheads because they lay their babies in the river. You know, they're river sharks. You know.
Yeah.
And just like I said, a couple of years ago, we had our first cougar sighting. All right, from a traffic cam. Right.
Mhm.
I mean, we've had black bears all the time, but we had our first cougar sighting, and then we had another one, and then we had. And I turned to my wife and I said, "You watch." And it's a matter of time. We're going to start having wolves come back. And now we have wolves in New York again.
Wow. And
Yeah.
weren't they eradicated not too like back in what 100
Oh, yeah.
years ago?
Yeah. They eradicated everything. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm saying the wolves are back. The cougars are back. The black bears are back. Everything is back. And so we go out on the Hudson every spring, I think it is, when the stripers come in out of the ocean to lay the eggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got pictures, man. My son-in-law had a striper. It was like 4 feet long, right?
Dang.
And yeah, it was humongous.
A huge one.
There was like 100 boats on the river that day. The stripers were running, and everybody's just dropping in a line and pulling out a fish, and it was crazy. We had so many stripers, and you can only keep like certain sizes, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody's fishing, and I'm fishing. It's a beautiful sunny day, and we got the Palisades Cliffs. It's New Jersey Palisades Cliffs to our west, and we got the Hudson Valley tree line to our east. And I'm sitting in a boat, and it's a beautiful thing. And I see this giant shadow come across the water.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I look up and I see this fucking thing. It was humongous. Now, as soon as I see it, I look around to see if anybody else has noticed it, because there's 100 boats on the river.
Yeah,
but
someone had to have seen it.
Everybody's going like this, right? So I'm looking at this bird, and I swear to God, from beak to tail, it had to be, I want to say, 20 feet long. All right. Now, maybe if it was just standing up, it was on its feet. Maybe it was only 10 feet high. But between the beak and the tail feathers, it was huge. And the wingspan had to be a solid 10 feet on either side. And his body had to be a solid, I would say, between 8 and 10 feet thick. So you're looking at something that's almost 30 feet. You know what I mean?
Huge
and this
wingspan.
Thing, you heard the whoosh. It did like a circle over the river. Now, I don't know if it was there for the stripers too. I couldn't tell you. You know what I mean? It was my first year on the river fishing for stripers. So I don't know if this thing comes back every year, but it did a circle. And I turned around to my son-in-law and my son. I said, "Nick, Joe, look up. you know, and you're like, what are you talking about? I go, look fucking up, you know.
I can't get more clear. Look up.
Because my son thinks I'm insane with all the paranormal shit anyway, but my son-in-law believes it, you know,
Yeah.
and they both looked up and they were like, oh no, we don't want to even know. We don't want to just go back to fishing, you know, like they didn't want to get involved with that. They didn't know what it was, and they didn't want to know. The thing was bigger than the boat we were in, you know.
Dang.
And yeah, my son-in-law's boat's only like 17 feet long and maybe, you know, 8 feet wide, and it's for fishing, you know. It's a fishing boat. He's like a bass guy and shit, you know. And it just flew over. It circled once, then it did a flap, and it went back over the horizon, over the Palisades cliffs, and then it never came back.
And what color was it? You said it was
jet black. Right?
Okay.
Jet black. You know what it looked like to me?
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a golden eagle on steroids. You know what I mean? I mean, this thing was just jet black, and it was humongous, just humongous.
Wow. And what year was this? Would you say
2 years ago? 2 years ago. I would say 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
And now, have there been other Thunderbird sightings in the tri-state area?
Not that I know of, but you know, the Native American law here on the East Coast with the Iroquois and the Chippewa and the Mohegans, you know, they all talk about the Thunderbird, you know?
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, I don't know if this thing is nesting on the Palisades cliffs. If you Google Earth the Palisades cliffs, you'll see these cliffs are just like straight up, man. You know, rock face, which I don't know if it's nesting up there. I don't know if it flew in from Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? I don't know, but it was the craziest thing I ever seen. Well, you know, I seen a lot of crazy shit, but that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. To see, you know, something like, you know, it's funny. I say this all the time. Not in my wildest imagination did I ever expect to see anything like that, and then I see shit like that. You know, and
I mean, we know that Thunderbird's been in native lore and seen thousands of years, but
years.
Yeah, so you getting to see one, I'm like, that's got to be a once in a lifetime.
Yeah, like sighting. I said, we haven't gone out the last year or this year. We haven't gone out for the stripers because my son-in-law bought a house and he's been working on a house night and day, so we haven't had time to go fishing. You know, but we plan on getting out next year for sure again. But I mean. It was just amazing. I mean, like, you know, what do you see when you see something so big that it takes up the whole sky? You know, and the river is wide, man. This is not a small river.
No, the Hudson River is huge,
wide, you know, and it's deep. And this thing, and I swear to God, you know, my gut said to me that it was there for the stripers.
Yeah,
but there was so many boats on the river that day, at least in that section of the river, that it probably just said, you know, let me go further north or something, you know, where there's less people.
Now, did you ever get to talk to any of the other people in the other boats and see if they saw the same thing, or were you just you and your boat, your son-in-law is the only one that saw it?
No, you know what? I looked around. To see if anybody else seen it or if anybody else was like looking up, and nobody. It was like everybody on that river was oblivious to what was above them. They were all focused in what was in the water, you know?
Yeah, like you said, they're all worried about the fish.
These people were all there for the stripers, and that was it, you know, and they didn't even look up, you know, and it was just like, you know, and if I would have started screaming, look up, my son would have died of embarrassment, you know what I mean? Like I said, he thinks I'm insane as it is, so, you know.
So your son's, would you say, more closed mind? He's not open to the cryptid and paranormal, would you say? Or?
He claims to be not believe in anything, but him and his sister has had all kinds of experiences in this house growing up and in their room. And there was a time where he was almost abducted by aliens, you know what I mean? But that's a whole nother story.
He just doesn't want to talk about it.
He doesn't want to talk about it.
Okay,
you know?
which is fair enough.
Put it this way. He's got a walk-in closet with 4 sliding doors, right?
Wow.
Each door's got a lock on it.
I wouldn't blame him. I mean, I'm not going to believe in it. I just don't want to think about it.
Each door has got a lock on it because you don't want to deal with anything coming out of that closet at night, you know.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
yeah, I mean, that's just, I mean, your son didn't really see it. You didn't want to cause a big commotion about it. So, but no, I mean, the whole Thunderbird, I mean, that's truly an encounter that
it was
not
so,
many people
it
could say.
was so big. When I tell you it was so big, like the shadow it cast on the river,
Mhm.
it looked like it took half the river up. That's what made me look up when I seen the shadow on the river. It was so fucking big. I was like, what the hell is casting this big a shadow? You know, I mean, the shadow was humongous. You know, and everybody's shadow was 10 times the size of them, you know?
Oh, of
But
course. Yeah.
but when I looked up, this thing was incredible. It was, and when it swooped its wings, and it only did it once, you heard the whoosh, you know, and
Yeah.
it just spun around once, twice, and then boop off over the cliffs. And like I said, whether it went north up the river after that, you know, away from to where there's less people or whatever, I don't know. But it was incredible, you know, like all my years of doing this shit, you would think that my first reaction would be grab my phone and film it, you know.
You would
But
think, but
your mind can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing. You know what I mean? And your
exactly.
brain is trying to figure out what the hell you're seeing. And the
What is this?
last thing you're thinking about is going into your pocket to get your phone to film. You know?
Yep. And that's the
No,
thing.
it's
That's why people always say, hey, you got to get the $1 million shot. But it's like you said, when you're in the moment, you're not going to know. You're in awe of these things. Same with the Dogman, the Sasquatch, it's just, unless you've got, 5 cameras all around you, recording the whole time. I mean, you're more in awe. And like you said, you weren't going out looking for Thunderbirds. You're out fishing.
yeah, we're fishing for stripers. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And it was one of those moments that just happened to, like I said, a once in a lifetime deal.
Yeah, it was a once in a lifetime deal. It was amazing. I will never forget it. You know, I thank God for letting me see it, you know.
Yeah.
And it was just it was like when you look up in the sky and you see something that takes up the sky, you know, it takes up the sky,
It
you
casts a
know.
shadow over the sun. I
I
mean,
mean, it was just huge, you know, and it wasn't mechanical, it wasn't a craft of any kind. You know, I've heard people say, well, maybe it was an alien craft. And I'm like, dude, this thing was flesh and blood. It was biological. It just looked like a giant golden eagle. That's what it looked like.
interesting, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a question. You probably know more about the Thunderbird. I've just recently, since you've told me about it, I've just kind of been reading on it. Now, where did the Thunderbird get their name? Is it just that did the natives believe they protruded like lightning and thunder out of them, or?
You know what? You know, William would probably be the guy to ask about that, but
Oh, okay.
I would think that when they swoop their wings and they make
Hmm.
that whooshing noise, maybe it emulated thunder to the Native Americans, and that's how they got their names. Not really sure. Don't quote me on that. You
Okay.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to ask William. I didn't even think about that. And I know Laura, she's native too.
Oh,
I know she
okay.
just came out
Oh,
with a
Laura. Yeah, Laura's native too. Absolutely.
she just
Yeah.
started up her YouTube channel and it's very informative. I'll have to watch. I think she did one on the Thunderbird. I'll have to watch that
Oh,
later.
cool. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so what got you into? Like, I know you said you did UFOs and Bigfoot. When did you hear about the Dogman and get into the whole Dogman, research and stuff?
I stumbled across Vic's channel one night. I'm sitting by the fire pit,
Uh,
having some beers and listening to the radio shows. I come across Vic's channel, and I was like,
mhm.
"Holy!" You know what? Let me lead into it this way.
Okay.
My 95-year-old aunt, okay, told me a story.
Hmm.
My aunt loves ghost shit. She told me a story about what happened to her cousins in Italy back in the 40s, before the war, right?
Hmm.
Um, just before the war, we had relatives who lived in northern Italy up in the mountains, and they were
Hmm.
shepherds, okay? And the father, the mother, and the two sons, and they didn't have any dogs. So every night when the sheep were out, someone in the family had to stay up all night to make sure that they weren't attacked by wolves, right? So the older brother told the younger brother, the kid is only like 10, 12 years old at the time, right? Tells the younger
Mhm.
brother, tonight you got to stay up with the sheep, sit underneath this big rock. There was a rock that protruded out of the mountain, that gave him some kind of shelter, and they sit under this big rock, and if the wolves come, here's a stick with a rock on top to beat them with it. Okay. So the kids out there underneath the rock, and the sheep are eating and herd gathering, and they start getting nervous and shit. So the kid
Mhm.
says, "Oh, something must be going down." So the kid gets up, and a wolf comes up on that rock just above him and casts a shadow below. So he sees, okay, there's a wolf, coming. So this kid, 12-year-old kid, comes out from behind a rock with this club, sneaks up on the wolf and starts beating the wolf on the head with this club. Now the
Mhm.
sheep go crazy, all kinds of confusion, noise. The father comes running out, the brother comes running out. The wolf runs away into the woods. So the next morning, the they go into town, they tell the constable, they get like a hunting party together, and they're going to get this wolf. They know the wolf is injured because there's a blood trail. So they're
Yeah.
following. This is a true story. I swear on my dead mother. They followed a blood trail through the woods for miles. Okay. They finally come upon a cottage in the middle of the woods that nobody knew was there. So the constable says, okay, I'll go up and knock on the door. Everybody else stay back. Because they thought maybe whoever owned the cottage had the wolf as a pet, you
Yeah.
know? And so the constable knocks on the cottage door, and the dude opens the door with a bandage around his head. I
What?
swear to God,
No,
hand
I
to
totally
God.
believe you. I'm just like in awe. That's just
Everybody looks at each other, says, Wolfman in Italian, right? And they just
yeah.
leave that guy there, and they go back to the village. My relatives sold the farm, everything they came to the United States. Now they told this story on my living room. I wasn't born yet. In my living room to my
Uh,
mother and father and my two aunts, and my brother and sister were there. So they heard this
mhm.
story. So when my aunt told me the story, of course, I called my brother and sister to validate it. And they were like, oh, yeah, yeah, I remember this. So, that freaked me out, right? That intrigued me. Like, because, the Wolfman and the Little Red Riding Hood and all that shit came out of Germany in the Black Forest. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And those people, whether it was actually people turning into wolves, shapeshifters, or the people in Germany were seeing, dogmen, I don't know. But if you think about Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf doesn't change, but he dresses up in clothes and he sits, and he dresses up like the grandmother, you know what I mean? So it's an intelligent creature. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So anyway, I'm listening to Vic's stories and freaking me out. Freaking me out. I can't sit in front of my fire pit anymore without my 12 gauge, right? Because I got nothing but woods behind my house, hundreds of
Yes.
acres of
You got
woods.
thick foliage earlier
Yeah,
before
and
this,
I got like
the background went dark.
another 100 acres across the street of wetland. So I started
Oh,
sitting out here at night with my 12 gauge pistol grip shotgun, because I didn't want to give up the fire pit, but I wasn't going to sit out here unarmed anymore after listening to these stories. So I tell Brian about it, and I get Brian hooked on it, right? So
uh,
then one morning, I'm a commuter. I'm commuting down to the city. I drive down every day. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30. I get up. 5 o'clock, I'm on the road, and usually I'm the only asshole on the road that early in the morning, right? And one morning, I'm driving by this meadow. I'm driving by the meadow off the side of the parkway, and I see three tall creature things coming out of the woods with yellow eyes.
mhm.
So I slow my Jeep down. I'm in the middle of the parkway. I stop the Jeep. I rolled the window down because I got tinted windows. I want to get a better look at this. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm trying to gauge what I'm looking at, And they're
Mhm.
pretty far away at this point. And I'm looking at them and I'm saying, what's ever walking out from underneath those trees are tall because the trees are cut up like to 8 feet so the tractors can get underneath them when they cut the grass right on the side of the parkway. And
Mhm.
these things, their eyes are up high. So I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, man, these must be, squatches or something, But
Yeah.
every squatch I've ever seen had red eyes. So
Mhm.
these were had yellow eyes, and there was two of them. And I'm looking at them and I'm looking at them, and then all of a sudden they stop and they turn and they look at me. They notice me looking at them, and then they drop down to all fours and they start running towards me.
Oh, wow.
And I'm looking at them and they're looking at me. And I had a German Shepherd at the time, okay?
Mhm.
And I am seeing their heads going like this as they're running. So I'm thinking, these ain't any fucking squatches because squatches don't have necks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, this must be dogmen or something. This has got to be two dogmen coming at me, right? So
Mhm.
I'm looking at them, and I swear to God, they had me hypnotized. I was just hypnotized in the middle of the park. If someone was coming down, they would have killed me.
Mhm.
And then a little voice in the back of my head said, "It's time for you to get out of here." Because they were getting close.
How far away would you say? Like 20, 30 yards or a little farther?
Yeah, when I started to pull away, they were about 30 yards away, maybe 35 yards away. Because when they
Wow.
first spotted them, they were a good 100 yards away.
Mhm.
And so I pulled off. I took off with the Jeep. I punched the Jeep out. I pulled them. And as I started to pull away, I tapped my back brakes to light it up so I could see what they were doing.
Mhm.
And I seen them stop and kind of like sniff down the ground. And maybe they caught a scent of a deer herd because usually that time of the morning, the deer herds are on the meadow, like eating and shit. So
Mhm.
maybe they caught a scent of a deer and then they started running north up the parkway.
Wow.
And I'm thinking about, I got like an hour ride to work, right? And I'm thinking about this and I'm like, what the hell did I just see? I don't know what I see. I got to, I actually, am I going to tell, I'm like, I got to tell Brian, but I don't know if I should tell Brian because I don't know what the hell I seen.
Mhm.
And so eventually I tell Brian, and Brian says, dude, you got to go back. You got to go back. You got to measure those trees. You got to look for tracks. And I'm like, I said, there's nothing there. There's a middle school behind the woods, and next door to the middle school is town hall, and across the street from that are two condo complexes. There's nothing there. And Brian's like, dude, you have to go back. So I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll go back, right? So the next day, I get on the parkway, regular time, and there's a New York State conservation officer vehicle on the grass, and I'm like, huh,
That's
interesting.
odd.
I've never seen that before. So I'm thinking, okay, so I go to work, I come home, it's there. The next day, I go to work, I come home, it's there. Third day, I come home, the truck hasn't moved in 3 days. Same spot. It's a little green F 110 Ford pickup or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And then over the weekend, Friday, it changed from a conservation officer to an EPA guy, right? Environmental Protection Agency truck.
Yeah.
Okay. And this truck is sitting there, same spot as the other one. I never see anybody. So now Sunday rolls around, I get my first day off of work. I go back. I got my ruler, my tape measure, and I measure the from the bottom of the tree to the top of the tree where the first branch was, solid 8 feet. That's what I figured anyway. I look for tracks. I don't see any tracks because it's nothing but grass. It's a meadow. So I start walking backwards towards like my house. If I was going home, right? I'm
Mhm.
walking west, and I come through these little woods where the school is, and then right next to the school there's a creek. Okay, so I go down in the creek, and there's a ton of people fishing. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, yeah, this every year this time they fill the creeks up with trout. And I'm thinking, okay, creek, trout, food, right? There's food here. If it because I can say there's no food there. But now I've just found a creek filled with trout, so there's plenty of food. I cross under the road and I end up where the two condo complexes are, right? And there's a giant lake in between both of them. There's geese, there's ducks on the lake, there's frogs, there's turtle, more food, right?
Yeah.
I keep walking west, like if I'm walking to my house, and
Mhm.
I come to a giant cornfield. Okay, what's in the
Cornfields and
cornfield?
Dogman.
Cornfield. There's deer in the cornfield. So I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, there's so much food here. And when I tell you it's from where the cornfield starts and the parkway begins, the road to the parkway, it's only a quarter mile distance. And you
Mhm.
got all that different kind of food, and I was thinking there was nothing there. So I told Brian, I said, dude, I'm so glad you forced me to go back and do all of that shit because, I thought I knew everything, but I didn't have no fucking clue.
Yeah,
And
you weren't thinking apex predators out there, just
and
thinking, hey, but
and
all the
I,
things
and I never
align.
never thought there was that much food for an apex predator. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Between the fish and the geese and the frogs and the corn and the deer, and I was like, Jesus, there's just a ton of shit here that these creatures can eat. But I believe that day they may have started at the cornfield
Mhm.
and worked their way to the meadow because that's where all the herds of deer always grazed in the
Yeah,
morning.
like you said, early mornings they were grazing. So,
Yeah.
do you think they were chasing after you, like to get you out of the area, and that's why they stopped and then went and maybe picked up the scent, or?
I don't know. I think the vibe I got was they were not happy that I was watching them,
Mhm.
and they were coming over to see what the hell I was all about. You know what I mean? I honestly don't think it was a bluff charge
Mhm.
because they both dropped down at the same time and they both just started running like a German Shepherd, just like, going after, like, those police dogs going after a bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think they were coming to see what I was all about. You know what I mean? Like, who's this asshole watching us? What's this guy want? And but their eyes and my eyes when we locked, I swear to God, I felt like I was in a daze. Like they just had me hypnotized.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have that little voice in the back of my head that said, "It's time for you to go and go now," I don't know what would have
Hightail out of
happened.
there.
I don't know what would have happened. And I get a lot of gut feelings. I don't claim to be psychic by any stretch of the imagination, but I get gut feelings my whole life, and I always listen to 99% of the time I listen to my gut. And the longer you're in these fields, the more sensitive you get to different energies. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And you'll find that out as time goes on. You know what I mean? Because you're starting here now with the Dogman, but I guarantee you this is not your last stop.
Oh
Okay,
no,
you're
I
just
know
getting
where.
started. Yeah,
Yeah, where I go, it's real squatchy, and we've heard some stuff, and it
yeah.
spooked the wife. And I'm like I say, I'm looking for that dog, man. But I think where
Uh,
we're at, I mean, next year we're actually planning a trip to go to Kentucky to meet up with Paul Chafin and go, for
oh
a week
wow,
and
cool.
go
Yeah.
look for the dog men out in the Daniel Boone. So
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
there's definitely Dogman in the Daniel Boone, without a
Oh
doubt.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
without a doubt. Yeah. So that was my first encounter with him. And
Yeah.
then there was another time we were on a day night investigation. We really didn't know what we were getting into. It was a place of high strangeness, had a lot of all kinds of shit going on there. There was UFOs, there was reports of UFOs, reports of Bigfoot, all kinds of shit. And we went there, and we were just doing like a walkthrough, like just checking the area out, like figuring out what was going to be our first location, our second look, because I always do day night. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because I like to
Yeah.
see what the difference is and how the energy changes when it gets dark. And
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent of doing old school, new school stuff because sometimes our batteries get drained and all the new school technology ain't worth shit, and
Exactly.
you got to go
Go
back
with
to
the
the
old
old
school.
school stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like to go both, and I happened to run across three quartz crystals that were set up in a pyramid shape, and I
What?
was like, this is a weird fucking thing. Like, you know what I mean? Who put this here? And so I said to my cameraman at the time, Bill, I said, this will be our first location. And then we'll work back towards the car. There was
Mhm.
a meadow we wanted to hit. And then there was a site we called the campsite because a lot of people who hike the Appalachian Trail use this one location to camp at the lake. And this is where a lot of Sasquatch come in, you know?
Okay.
So, all right. So long story short, I don't want to get into the whole story, but
No, because the platform is yours, brother. Like I said, you can talk. You can go into detail if you'd like. Just so for the people that haven't heard it.
it's a long story, bro.
Hey,
You know what I mean?
brother. Like I
Okay.
said, we got an hour and a half. I mean, we're 40 minutes into it. If you want to sum it up, it's up to you. But if you want to go into detail, that's totally fine.
Okay. We went to this place, and it's a place of high strangeness. And we went to this third location, okay? And we planned on doing all kinds of paranormal investigations. Brian had a quartz crystal stone, a skull, clear crystal, and I had a rose quartz. And we wanted to see if we charge those 3 quartz crystal stones, if we can capture energy jumping from the clear quartz to the rose quartz, okay?
Mhm.
So we filmed it, and we had a thermal camera going, we had an infrared camera going, we had a full spectrum going, and we had a low light camera going, okay? And stones were ice cold, ice cold, okay? So as a matter of fact, they were so cold, I couldn't even find them on my thermal. I had to use a laser pointer to find them, okay?
Wow.
And so we did that. We called our psychic who's in Arkansas,
Mhm.
and she's third, fourth generation Native American. And she said, okay, this location is a place of high strangers. You're going to have this, that, and this happen to you. And she goes, call me when you get to the other location. Okay, and whenever she tells us about all this crazy shit, we think she's out of her mind and we laugh at her, we break her chops, but she's always spot on. So then, so then I had a parabolic mic going, and I caught what sound like a Morse code coming out of the sky.
Mhm.
Okay. And we recorded it. Okay. And everybody listened to it, and everybody had their own theories. Nobody knew what the hell it was. And when it came to my theories, that maybe it's just a UFO disguised as a cloud that we can't see, that's
Mhm.
transmitting. But that was just me. I'm wearing a stone that night that was supposed to um, ring at a frequency that UFOs would be attracted to. Okay,
Mhm.
because I wanted to make sure something happened. I didn't want to go home without anything happening. Okay, so then we start our experiments, and we take out a Tibetan singing bowl, and we fill the woods up with frequency and vibration, and the energy of the woods just changed. My mouth starts tingling, my fingers are tingling, everything's tingling. Um, I filmed with the thermal image again on the quartz crystal stones, and they're white hot. The rocks are white hot. And I'm telling Brian, touch the rocks, see if they're hot. And he's like, fuck you, I'm not touching those rocks. I'm like,
I'll burn my fucking
I'm like,
hand.
touch the rocks. And he's like, no. I go, here, you film, I'll touch the rocks. But they were ice cold to the touch. But in the thermal camera, they were white hot.
Yeah,
Okay.
emitting a lot of heat, huh?
Yeah, a lot of heat. And then we hear something coming through the woods from our west coming east. Okay. Now, this particular night, it was a full moon, it was Hallows Eve, and it was a meteor shower. Okay.
Perfect setting. I love it.
Perfect setting, right? So we're in these woods. We got coyotes to the west of us going off because of the full moon. We got a kennel of dogs to the east of us going off because of the coyotes. And I pick up the parabolic mic, and I hear somebody walking towards us. Boom, boom, boom. We got no headlamp. We got no fire going. We don't have any headlamps on. All we
Pitch
have
black, right?
all we have is some glow sticks on the ground for ambient lighting. Okay,
Wow.
but we had headlamps. We just didn't have them on.
Uh-huh.
So I tell the guys, I think there's another paranormal group in the woods. I think they're coming this way. So Brian listens, Bill listens, and they look at me and they go, are you out of your fucking mind? If that's another guy, he's like 10 feet tall and 1,000 pounds. So I go, let me listen. So I listen again. I go, yeah, you're right. So we're sitting there on top of this ridge. Below us, to the right of us is a lake. To the west of us is a swamp. And we're up on this ridge. There's a stone wall behind us, like a 3-foot stone wall. Nobody knows who makes these walls. They're just all over the East Coast, okay?
Mhm.
And we hear whoop, 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 and the ground vibrates. The vibration goes up our legs, and pounds us in the chest. And the dogs and the coyote go dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop, right?
Wow.
So everybody's
Man.
like, everybody's freaking out, and everybody's like, "What do you think it is?" Like, "Oh, I know what that is. There's only one thing that whoops like that, right?" So I do a tree knock. It does a rock knock, and we're sitting there, and we're waiting, and it does a tree knock. Then I do a rock knock, and we're going back and forth with this communication, right? And then all of a sudden we get a whoop from the west, a whoop from the east, a whoop from the south, and now we're like, I mean, but they're
You're
far away.
surrounded.
But they're
Yeah.
far away. But I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
and I'm like, oh shit, we're surrounded, but a good distance. So then all of a sudden, this thing, we're sitting there, and we have our chairs, and we're sitting in the middle of the woods with our chairs, and this thing. Well, when it whooped, Bill, the camera guy, goes, "I think it's time to leave," right? And I go, "No, not yet. I'm not
It's
ready
getting
to leave
good.
yet." I said, "The night is just getting started. There's no way I'm leaving now." I'm all excited. And this thing takes a rock the size of a bowling ball, throws it up over the trees. Now, you got to remember, we're on a ridge. We're got to be, 50 foot above this swamp. This thing is down and throws this rock up over the top of the trees. It comes down, it lands right in between me and Bill, and it rolls down and hits Brian's chair. And Brian says, "Okay, it's time to go." And I go, "No, I'm not ready to leave yet. Not yet. I feel like there's still more to come."
Yeah,
So
especially with precise accuracy like that. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean, the thing wasn't looking to kill us. If it wanted to kill us, it could have killed us.
yeah.
So all of a sudden, we're sitting there, and Bill has got his back to the wall, and he's closest to the wall. And all of a sudden, we start hearing bada boom, quadruped charging up the ridgeline. Well, now this is the fall, right? There's tons of leaf litter on the ground. You can hear this thing taking giant steps. Boom, boom. And it's coming up the ridge. I jump up. Brian jumps up. We put our headlamps on. I'm looking straight ahead. I'm not taking my eyes off because I'm thinking this is either a black bear or it's a mountain lion. And all we got on us are 10-inch machetes. I mean, 18-inch machetes, 10-inch survival knives, and pepper spray, right? And I'm thinking, we're in between all these trees. The machetes are too big. I'm going to have to pull out the survival knife, sacrifice my left arm to kill this mountain lion. This is what's going through my head, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I think is coming. And it's coming. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. And it's getting close. And Bill's by that wall. Bill gets up and just starts running in the darkness past me. I don't know how I did this. To this day, I don't know how I did this because I never took my eyes off of where the sound was coming from. I reached out to Bill as he was coming by, and I stopped him and I spun him around. I said, "Stand your fucking ground." And we were standing there like in a triangle formation with our machetes and our knives out. And this thing comes charging up the ridge. It gets right to the wall. Nothing comes over the wall.
Whoa.
Now we got our cameras pointed in every which direction. We turn all our cameras around towards that wall where that sound was, and there's nothing on any of the cameras. Okay, I got this little Sony digital camera around my neck that I just swear by. I take one photograph with the flash, but the screen is only like 2x2. You can't see anything on it, especially in the dark.
Yeah.
I take this one flash photo and I say, "Come on, let's go over the wall. Let's see what's over there." We get over the wall, and it only took us a minute to get over that wall. We go right to the edge of the woods. Bill's got a 1500 luma flashlight that lights up the woods like daytime. Okay? We're looking in the swamp. We don't see shit. 3 miles away from us, we hear a whoop. And Brian goes, "Oh my God, the thing just went through a portal." It just bluff charged us. And then, because we never heard it leave.
Yeah, it just stopped and went silent, right?
We didn't hear it walk back down the ridge. We didn't hear it jump off the ridge into the swamp. It was just gone. Okay.
Wow, that's mind blowing.
Mind blowing. So Brian's like, "Can we leave now?" And I was like, "Not yet. Let's sit."
Wait, it's getting good.
So we sit down for another half hour and the woods go dead silence. That's okay. Let's go to our second location, which we called the meadow. It's about 15-minute hike to where we got to go. So we're hiking along the meadow, and all of a sudden I see this white silverish object flashing in the sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going from west to east. And I look up and I see it and I said, oh God, please don't let this be a UFO. And please don't let these guys get abducted because of me, right? And no sooner did I say this thought in my head, Brian goes, what's that? He points up to it, takes his camera out, and he starts filming it. We got video of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're filming this thing. Now, as soon as Brian points to it, it stops and it makes a beeline towards us, right? It comes over to us, and you could hear us in the video saying, what the fuck is it? Is it a drone? It's not making any noise. Is it a helicopter? And I say to everybody, let's shut our headlamps off, right? So we shut off our headlamps so it can't see us. It hits us with a floodlight. So now we're in the flood and we're looking up at this thing and it's looking up at us. And I'm thinking, I don't know what this light is doing to us. Is it downloading us? What is it doing? So I tell everybody, let's step out of the light because I don't know what's going on. So we step out of the light. As soon as we step out of this floodlight, it goes off and the craft starts to fly away. We get to our second location. First thing I said to Bill when it comes off says a time check, and he goes 9 o'clock. I said, okay. Then after it leaves, we get to the second location, and I go time check, and he's like 9:15. I said, okay, there was no missing time there because I figured it was only going to take us 15 minutes to get to the meadow.
Mm-hmm.
We call our psychic up again, and we say, okay, we're at the second location. What's going to happen here? And she starts telling us, you're going to see like forest creatures. You're going to see like gnomes, and you're going to see fairies, and you're going to see 7-foot shadow figures. And we're laughing our ass off. We're like, what the fuck are you smoking? Are you out of your mind? Do you hear what you're telling us? Right. And she's like, call me when you go to the third location. Okay. So now I said to Brian, I said, you know what? The Native Americans here say, if you see these balls of light, because she says the balls of light are fairies.
Mm-hmm.
The Native Americans say, if you see the balls of light, don't follow them into the woods because they'll lead you to your demise. That's what they say up here, okay? So I tell Brian, I said, you know what? You got a green laser, I got a red laser. If we see any balls of light, let's hit them with the lasers to see what happens. She says, okay. So Brian's looking over my shoulder, and he's seeing shit running behind me. I'm facing south, he's facing north, and Bill is facing east. And Bill is actually filming the meteor shower. He's filming the meteor shower. And Brian says, Bill, point the camera behind Al. Now, Bill's camera, we had it rigged up to have a monitor attached to it. Not just the camera monitor, but a big monitor that we can, almost like a tablet or something,
Mm-hmm.
We hooked it up that way. So I'm holding the tablet. Brian's looking over my shoulder. Bill's filming the camera, looking at the monitor on the camera. And I hand to God, I swear to God, not one, but 2 little gnomes come out from behind a tree. And one goes from one tree to another. Then the other one comes out, goes to the other. So Brian goes, oh, we got to go over there, we're going crazy because we can't believe what we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
And Bill is really amped because we got an SD card in the camera. We're capturing everything, We're like, yeah, we got this shit, baby. The smoking gun, right? So we go over to the rocks and the trees where we see these things. There's nothing there. We sit back down and we're sitting there in the meadow. Now the Appalachian Trail comes out to where the meadow is, right? And we have no idea what time it is. Oh, we're sitting there, and I see behind Brian in the trees 12-foot shadow figures jumping from tree to tree. So I'm taking pictures of these shadow figures with my camera, my digital camera, and Bill's filming it with the night camera. But it's weird because on the video, the night camera, there's no leaves on the trees. It's the fall, right? There's no shadow figures in the trees, but there looks like Christmas ornaments on the trees, like all these silver little Christmas ornaments on the tree. We have no idea what it is.
Wow.
No idea. It's freaking us out. So Bill's like, what the hell is this? We're looking at this. And then Brian goes, what the hell is that? Across the lake where we had just come from, two balls of light show up. They just pop up out of this bush that's got no leaves on it, right? Comes up out of the bush. So I said, okay, get the lasers ready, boys. Let's see what happens, right?
Let's
So I
hit
said,
him.
on three, Brian, you hit the one on the right. I'll hit the one on the left. I said, Bill, you hit that whole area with the 1500 luma flashlight. Let's see what happens. On three, we hit those. When we hit those balls of light with the laser beams, they blinked out. They never came back the rest of the night. And Bill lit that whole area up with his 1500 luma flashlight. There was nothing there. Nothing there. So now we're bugging out. We're talking about all this crazy shit. We hear it gets crazy. Now it gets crazy. We hear what sounds like a family coming down the Appalachian Trail, right? A mother and a father, two little kids laughing and giggling, kicking stones. And I'm thinking, why would anybody take their children out on a hike at 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, whatever time it was, on the Appalachian Trail on Halloween? These kids should be trick or treating, right? Didn't make any sense. So I says to Bill and Brian, let's put our headlamps on so these people can see us, because got three large men standing here with weapons, knives and machetes. We don't want to think these people freak them out, especially if they got kids.
Yeah, exactly.
So the sound comes right up to the opening of the Appalachian Trail. No one ever comes out. So we're like, what the hell?
What?
So I said, Bill, get your flashlight. We're going in. Maybe something happened to this family, So we go in. We hike in 100 yards with this 1500 luma flashlight. There's nobody nowhere. So Brian says, call the psychic. So we call the psychic up. And I was like, she's like, why are you calling me so late? And I go, what are you talking about so late? We've only been here like 15 minutes. She goes, Al, you called me at 9:15. It's 11:30. Why are you calling? I said, no, it's impossible. We just got here like 10 minutes ago. She goes, it's 11:30. I said, she goes, well, we lost 2.5 hours of time that night. Okay. We don't know what happened. So I tell her what we just experienced. And she said, we were in a time-space continuum. And what we heard that night was really not going to happen till tomorrow, like at lunchtime.
Wow.
So we're burnt out. And we say, okay. So
call it a night, right?
so it's like 11:45. I want to be at the campsite by 12, because that's where all the reports are of the Bigfoots coming into the campsite right around 12. So I said, okay, let's go to the campsite. We get to the campsite, we set up, and I don't know who it was, if it was me or Brian or Bill, and says, oh, you know what? Tonight's the night we turn the clocks back. So it's not really 11:45, it's 11:45. And we're like, oh, man, we've been in these woods for like 10 hours. We're burnt. Like, the hell with it. I'm not sitting here for another hour. And I don't know why that thought came into anybody's head, because you don't change the clocks back on Halloween. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is what was going through our head. And so
10 hours out in the woods, man.
So we pack up and we start hiking out. And as we're hiking out, we're talking about what a shitty night it was that nothing happened, right? We're like, man, I can't believe we've been here all these nights, nothing happened. Now, the game plan on the way in was, when we left, we were going to go to a diner, grab some coffee, and talk about what happened. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets to their cars and goes a different way. Boom. Everybody just goes home a different way. There was no discussing diners, nothing like that. The next morning, Brian calls me up. He says, dude, I'm spitting blue phlegm, and I got a small childlike handprint on my chest, the black and blue. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. He goes, did you experience it? I said, I got a fat lip. I feel like something has been implanted under my lip, right? Mm-hmm. So we go, let's call Bill. We'll get him on a conference call. we call Bill, and Bill's like, he had night terrors all night, freaking out, and he had like a bruise on his head, you know, on the back of his head. But nobody fell down. Nobody got hurt that night, you know. So
Yeah, but it's just wow.
we call our psychic. We call our psychic, and we say, you know, what the hell happened to us? And she said, well, you're not going to believe this. Now, this is a woman who's in Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
She says, the hand I was using to talk to you guys on the phone last night, I got a rash from my wrist to my elbow. She's in Arkansas.
What?
Yeah. So, like, no, but I was loopy for 3 days at work. I was able to work. You know what I mean? I was conscious enough to actually do my job without fucking it up.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, I was loopy for 3 days. The energy in the place just fucked us up. So now we go back and we put all we have our monthly meeting where we review all our evidence, right? We put it up on like a 50-inch screen TV, and we review it, and we got like all the team there, and everybody's got, you know, fresh eyes on it, and we're seeing orbs, and all these orbs are different colors, and they have faces in them, and you know, like everybody's just blown away by the orbs and shit, you know. So Brian says, I'm going to post all this stuff on social media, and I'm going to let other people review our stuff because, you know, there are people out there that got better shit than we do, right? Okay. So he puts it out there, and some dude from California calls me and says, dude, you know the picture you took of the wall at night? It's just like a flash of the wall. I said, yeah, I only took one picture of it that night when I thought
Yeah.
something was there. He says, well, there's a dog man behind that wall. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a dog man. I said, we looked at that photograph like 1,000 times. Nobody's seen anything. He goes, I send it to you. So he sends it to me, and I look at it, and I was like, oh, this has got to be photoshopped, right? This is what I'm thinking. So I go back to my little camera. I take the chip out and put it into the laptop and look at it, and sure as shit, there's the dog. You can see 2 pointy ears, like a Doberman pinscher, right? The eye shine, the nose, it had like a square muzzle, like a pit bull.
Yeah.
And all you seen was the nose and the eye shine looking up. And I don't know if it was looking at us or if it was taking in our scent. He was sniffing us, but we could see it, you know? So we're like freaking out, like, holy crap, we caught a picture. We thought it was a Bigfoot that bluff charged us. It was a dog man.
Yeah.
So then Brian says, well, maybe the Bigfoot was there because we were in the Dogman area and it was just trying to warn us to get us the hell out of there, you know? And I said, maybe, you know, maybe they knew not to go on that side of the lake. That's their territory, whatever, you know? So then the same guy reaches back to me like 2 days later and says, you know that picture with all the orbs? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, you got a Sasquatch underneath one of the bushes looking at you guys. He says, it looks like a fucking lion's head under the... I go, what do you mean it looks like a lion's head? He goes, Al, it looks like... So he sends it to me. Again, I'm thinking this is photoshopped, right? How many times did we look at this photo with these orbs in it? But nobody's looking down on the ground underneath the bushes. Sure as shit, there's this giant Sasquatch head. Just the head. All you see is the head. I don't know if it was on its belly, you know, underneath the bush, but you see this giant head just looking. It's definitely Sasquatch. There's no doubt about it. And I was like blown away that we caught, and I was just taking photographs. Like every time we did one of our experiments, whether we were using frequency or vibration or whatever we were using, I would do a 360 with photographs and see what we caught, you know, see if anything came out, you know, because we've had a lot of success with that shit. And when I caught that Bigfoot, so then I'm being drawn back to the swamp, right? Something is drawing me back to the swamp. I don't know why, but so I tell Brian, I tell Bill, I said, look, I'm going back to the swamp. If you guys don't want to come, you don't have to come, but I'm going back, man. I got to go. So they said, no, we're not going to let you go by yourself. We're going to come with you. So we all head back, and I got maybe 100 yards from where I wanted to be, and I got hit with infrasound. Ooh. So much so that my body overheated, and I had to sit down and pour water over my head and just sit there for like 15 minutes because I was just like I felt like my body temperature was 1,000 degrees, right?
Just burning
So
internally, huh?
Bill was like,
Man.
maybe we should leave. Maybe we should leave. And I go, fuck that. I'm not leaving. I'm too close to where I want to be, you know? So I
You're still
said,
going in.
so I'm going in. So now we get to the location and we're walking around. And now we're in the swamp below the ridge we were on that night, right? And we're looking around and we're looking around. We don't see shit. It's just woods. We don't see any breaks, any bends, any arches, nothing, right? And we're looking around, and this little voice in my head says, jump up on this big rock in front of you. So I jump up to get a better view. And I take my walking stick and I move the cattails that were in front of me. And there's a pathway going into the swamp. So I said, Bryce, jump up here. Bryce jumps up. He looks. Bill jumps up with the camera. And I said, zoom into that thing. And so it looked like someone had pulled down trees and bushes and stuff to make a den. Okay. So we zoom into this thing. We zoom into this thing and we're looking and Bill's filming and we don't see anything at first on the camera. Right. But we're filming. And then as soon as I jump off the rock, it's like a veil is moved from my face. Now I find X's and arches and breaks and bends. I find scat. I find a thing that looks like a corral where you would funnel deer into this thing to ambush them.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. I'd never seen anything. This does not happen in nature by itself. You know, something built this. Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is some kind of corral, you know? And now I'm walking along the ridge, following the swamp, and I can see out of the back of the swamp, there's another trackway that goes down the middle of the swamp. So Brian's like, we got to get a drone. We got to fly it in that swamp. So we go back to Bill's house and we put the video on. He's got like a 60-something inch screen TV, right? We put it on his TV and we're filming. And now we can see inside the den. There's a dog man in the den looking. He was looking to the west, I believe. And all you see is this outline. I know everybody uses the terminology German Shepherd head.
Yeah.
But to me, it looked like a wolf head. But it was humongous. Okay.
How far or wide would you say the head was? Like how far, like how big is the head, would you say?
It's big. It's hard because it just looks like a shadow, but you can see the snout, you can see the head, you can see the ears. And then to the left of that is something that looks like a hyena snarling at us. Now, this is
in the same photo.
Yes. This is what I believe actually bluff charged us that night because it had that square snout like I have in the picture. Yeah. Wow. And next to that, I swear to God, it's in the picture. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I swear to God, next to that is something that looks like the fucking creature from the Black Lagoon. Okay, I don't know if
like
it's
a frogman
alien
or
I don't know if it's
reptilian?
alien. Yeah, definitely something reptilianish, right? But it's just if you ever seen the creature from the Black Lagoon, that's what it looked like to me. Okay, and it's sitting there in this thing with this. And then Bill's mother comes in, right? She comes in, she's bringing us coffee and cake and shit while we're reviewing everything. And she says, what are those two little monkeys doing in that picture? I'm like, what little monkeys? And the reptilian thing has got two small Sasquatches in his hands, one on each side. Looks like two little monkeys, like he's holding their hands.
What?
So
all in one photo. That's like the $1 million photo right
and
there.
I'm thinking, this is what I was drawn here to find, this den. And I think the reason why we were bluff charged that night up on this ridge is because we were too close to their den. And they didn't want us there. And I think the Sasquatch knew where we were. It was trying to drive us out of there. But I was too stubborn to leave, you know?
So like, I'm going in.
So then I'm at my house a couple of weeks after I do that investigation. I'm sleeping at my house. We sleep on the first floor. The kids are upstairs, right? And I'm from the cities. And when you come from the city, you never sleep with your windows open, right? You don't sleep with the screen open. Bad shit happens. Well,
Yeah.
for some reason that night, I don't know why, better judgment. It was hot, whatever. We didn't have the air conditions in. I slept with the window open that night. Okay. I sleep by the side of the bed where the window is.
Mhm.
And my wife sleeps by the side of the door. And we got our little cat in between us. The cat's sleeping between us. And I wake up like at 3 o'clock in the morning. I just feel like there's something on the other side of this wall. Okay. So I'm looking at the wall. I put my hand against the wall. I don't know why I do this, but I put my hand. I always want to feel stuff. For some reason, I have to feel like energy. And I put my hand against the wall and I get an image in my mind's eye of a dog man outside. Now the cat jumps up, whatever, for whatever reason, maybe she caught the scent of it. She jumps up and she runs upstairs to the kids' room, right?
Whoa.
So I look out the window. I put my nose up against the screen and I look out the window and I don't see anything. But I could have sworn I heard something sniffing. So I close the window, I lock the window, and I
Wow.
say, you know what? I'm gonna grab my gun and I'm gonna go see what the fuck this is. So I grab my shotgun that I keep on the side of the bed and I start to walk towards the kitchen that has a sliding glass door where the patio is, right?
Mhm.
And as I'm getting closer to the kitchen, I hear a little voice in my head say, stop. You don't want to see what's out there. Turn around and go back to bed. Now, this is not like me. I'm that guy that walks towards shit that's not supposed to be. Like, if there's somebody in my yard, I'm the guy going out there to find out what the fuck's going on. I turn around, I go back to bed, I put the shotgun on the side, I go to sleep, I get up in the morning, I go to work, I come home.
Mhm.
Now, that summer, we had just replaced our lines from the pump in the basement to the well. We have well water, right? So we had just replaced our lines, so there was no grass there yet. I
Mhm.
go out. I said, let me go around the back and see if I see any dog tracks. Right? I go around the back because I noticed the grass is ripped up. It's just dirt. There's no dog tracks, but there's 4 claw marks underneath the window. Like, yeah, I was here. Right. So I
Whoa.
take pictures of the claw marks. I take pictures of the window. I said, okay, it is what it is. I don't know what that means, but okay. Couple of days later, maybe a week later, I get up early in the morning and I always carry a pepper spray and a little pocket knife, maybe a 6-inch pocket knife, because sometimes we get packs of dogs running around out here and I
Mhm.
don't want to get mauled. You know what I mean? So I figured if dogs attack me, I can fight them off, especially on garbage day, right? So I go out that particular day. All the cars are in the driveway. So it's my wife's car, it's my daughter's car, my wife's car, my son's car is next to mine. So we got 4 cars in the driveway. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm half asleep. I put the lights on. I go out. I got a little tactical flashlight I take out with me. No, I didn't have the tactical flashlight that morning. I go out to the car. I start the car up to warm it up because it's like October. Go and start the car, and I'm going back inside to get my coffee and shit. And I see like something under my front deck. I'm like, what the fuck's under my deck? You know? So
Mhm.
I start walking towards what's under my deck. And as I'm getting closer, a little voice in my head says, maybe you should stop like right here. So I got the knife out, I got the pepper spray out, but I don't know what's under my deck. And, if it's a homeless person, my wife and kids got to come out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
as I'm getting closer to it, I'm getting closer. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the head is like humongous, right? The head is humongous. I think it's the same creature that was in the photo with the big head. It had like a lion's mane over its shoulder and its chest. So
Mhm.
now I'm just about a car length away. I'm at the front of my daughter's car and it's under my deck. And I just put up a new retaining wall, like an 8-foot retaining wall, right? Um, and the voice says, you should stop. You should stop right now. You should go inside. So I said, you know what? I'm going to stop right now and I'm going to go inside, right?
I'm gonna listen to
Because
that little
what's this
voice.
little knife and this pepper spray going to do? Once I seen the size of this creature, now I didn't see any fangs. I didn't see any red eyes. I didn't see nothing. All I seen was darkness, but I
Mhm.
seen a giant wolf-like head with a giant mane around its chest, and it was hunched over and it was under my deck. So I go back inside, I lock the door, I go back inside, and now I'm thinking, should I get the 30-06 and go back outside and shoot this fucking thing? You know, or what should I do? I'm debating, right?
Yeah,
I'm
I was gonna say you're
debating.
debating for sure.
And I said, you know what? I've read enough stories and heard enough stories that when people go to war with these things, it doesn't end well. So I said, I'm not. Oh no! That morning, I was in the kitchen. We had a little cat that lived outside in the backyard, Callie. I open up the sliding glass door and I feed her, and I close the door and I lock it. And my sliding door has like 3 different locks on it. Right? I lock it. Now as I'm walking towards this thing in the basement, Callie finishes eating, and she's coming around to do her business in my wife's flower garden. Right? Whatever she sees, she jumps straight up in the air like a Halloween cat. She goes running up into the woods, like for shelter. So I'm like, that was enough to tell me maybe I should leave, right? So I
Yeah.
go back inside. I'm debating on what I should do. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to go to war with this thing. My son is here. My son-in-law is here. Everybody knows where all the guns are. I got a whole shitload of fucking guns in the house. If anything happens, these guys can handle business. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
so I don't tell anybody because I don't want to freak anybody out, you know?
Mhm.
So I go back out to my car. Now I have my tactical flashlight with me because I want to see because when I was walking towards it, you know, and it was under my deck, the sensor lights were blinding me, you know what I mean? In the
Yeah.
driveway. So I'm going like this trying to see. So now I got my tactical flashlight and I can see what's under the deck. There's nothing under the deck. So I go into the deck, and on my brand new retaining wall is piss all over my retaining wall. It smells like ammonia. It's oily,
Oh.
it's greasy, and it's going down my wall and into my drain at the end of the driveway. And I'm like, this fucking thing pissed on my retaining wall. You know, like it's marking its territory, right?
Wow.
And I was
Like
like,
dog-like behavior. I
yeah,
mean,
right. So I go to work, I come home, and the first thing I do is I scrub that shit off. You know, I scrub it all off because I don't want it to stain my new wall.
mhm.
And I tell everybody about it. You know, I tell Brian and everybody, and they're like, "Oh my god, you got to be fucking! You didn't! I can't believe you didn't tell anybody in the house. You didn't think I got killed." And I'm at work. I'm having my coffee. I'm reading the paper, and my wife calls me 7 o'clock in the morning, freaking out. She's screaming like a lunatic. I go, what the fuck's your problem? What are you screaming about, you know? And she's like, I went to open the sliding glass door to feed Callie, and the whole door came out of the frame. If my son wasn't in the kitchen and caught the door, it would have crushed her. And I was like,
Oh,
wait a minute, stop. What do you mean the whole door came out
holy
of its frame?
smoke.
And she's like, I said, first of all, I fed Callie. Why are you feeding her after I feed her? And I
Mhm.
said, second of all, how does the whole fucking door come out of the frame? So I said, okay, I'm off tomorrow. I'll retrack everything. I'll put the fucking door back in, right? So the
Mhm.
following day, and then I started thinking, when I went to the front with the flashlight to check on the piss, this thing must have been in the back trying to pop the door out of its frame. You know what I mean? Like saying, look, I can get in if I want. I don't have to come through the glass. I can pop this whole fucking thing out.
Showing you
But
in its intelligence.
right.
Yeah.
And I was saying, well, good thing that my door locks on 3 different ways because I'm from the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
You know, I know what it is to have locks on the door. And a good thing this door locks 3 different ways because if it didn't have all 3 of those different locks on it, that whole fucking thing would have came right out, you know?
Yeah, and fell
And
right on your wife.
yeah, and I had to retrack but it didn't fall out until she unlocked everything. As soon as she unlocked it, everything was loose and came out. So we fixed that. Okay. That's the second time. So I said, okay, I got the message. I've been to your house. You've been to my house. I hear you loud and clear. I got no reason to come back to your house and bother you. Stay the
Mhm.
fuck away from me. I'll stay away from you. I'm good. I
So
don't
it
need to.
100% it followed you home. That wolf headed. one that you saw in the picture, not the hyena variant. That's the one that bluff charged you, right?
Right. Yeah.
'Cause I do hear that the hyena variants are more aggressive than certain other variants.
I think the hyena one was actually the female.
Oh, the
You
female.
know, I
Okay.
think so because the other one that looked more like a wolf,
Mhm.
he was just
The alpha,
massive.
right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
looked massive, and to me, he just looked like a male. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Say, hey, you're messing with my family. I'm gonna come mess with yours. So.
exactly. Yeah, no, that was the message and shit. And you know, I told Brian, and I took pictures of everything. I got pictures of the urine on the wall and everything, and you know, and the scratch marks. And I said, "That's it." I said, "Boys, I'm done with that swamp. I don't want nothing to do with that fucking thing anymore. I'm not going back in there. If you guys want to go in there, by all means, go do what you want to do. But I got I'm the one who lives closest to the area. You know what I mean? Brian lived down in the Bronx, 60 miles away. Bill lived on the other side of the Hudson River. I'm the guy who's in a direct line. You know, you could go from my hotspot to my house and there's no street lights, and you could stay on the back roads and cross like tiny little one lane streets all the way here.
Mhm.
No one would see you. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
that like in my town, they roll up the sidewalks at 8 o'clock. You know, I mean,
Wow.
and there's no street lights around here, and
So it's perfect for.
there's actually no sidewalks either. But you know what I mean?
But
But
yeah, like you said, at 8 o'clock, it's like they're out.
yeah,
It's perfect
I mean,
area for Dogman, Sasquatch, and everything, man.
cryptids. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. And then the last experience I had with the dog man was Brian and I went to an insane asylum's cemetery. Okay.
Hmm.
And we thought we were going, at least I thought I was going to a normal cemetery like they have in the city where you drive in and you drive around, you know, and this place was there was no signs for it. There was no parking for it. You had to hike a quarter mile through the woods to get there. Okay. And then when
Interesting.
you get there, it's got like one giant monument to all the insane asylum, people who died at the insane asylum.
Hmm.
And all the markers are just numbers. There's no
No names or
no
date of
name,
births.
just numbers. So
Wow.
we parked, we parked we parked on the grass in front of it when we first got there because we'd always do day night, right?
Hmm.
And we get there and we're walking around and we're doing EVPs and we're filming and we're doing, and I feel weird, man. I feel weird. I don't feel right. You know I don't feel right. And we're walking in the woods, and as we're walking in the woods, you know, we realize this fucking place is squatchy. You know, it's
Hmm.
really squatchy. You know, we thought we were going to an insane asylum cemetery. We got no weapons on us. You know, maybe pepper spray. No one brought any knives or machetes because we didn't know we were going to be in the woods. We thought we were going to be in the city. You know,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
yeah.
So,
And so we're walking around and we're walking around the woods, and it's really, and we're getting all kinds of like EMF and all kinds of shit. And Brian says, "What's the matter with you?" And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're not acting like you." I go, "Who the fuck am I acting like?" You know? And he's like, "You're not acting," but I know that I got some kind of attachment. I know
hmm.
something's attachment, but I'm in denial. So
Hmm.
Brian says, "Oh, something's not right," you know?
Yeah, you're a little
And,
off about this, Al.
and then he says, "You're going to tell me what's going on?" And I go, "What do you want me to tell you?" He goes, "Al, you don't even look like you." I go, "Who the fuck do I look like if I don't look like me, you know?"
Right.
And he goes, "No, I'm telling you, something is wrong." And he kept riding me about it, riding me about it. And I was like, "Look, I'm fine. Don't worry about me, you know?" And then I did a tree knock. Oh no, there was dogs barking like and across the street there was houses,
Hmm.
and there were dogs barking. And I did a tree knock, and the dogs shut up. And then we got a tree knock back. So we're like, "Whoa, what's this?"
Yeah.
You know? So now we went from ghost hunting mode to cryptid mode.
Hmm.
So I says to Brian, I said, "Okay, like, when we come back tonight, because I always do day night. So when we come back tonight, let's use this big monument as a base camp, and we'll point all our cameras up towards the hill, and we'll see what's going on. It was a beautiful November night. It was beautiful. You know, it wasn't cold. It was nice. And with full moon, stars, it was just a gorgeous night. So so it's still during the day. So I'm telling Brian, this is where we're going to set up. This is what we're going to do. He's like, okay. And Brian's got like supersonic hearing. The fucking dude is crazy, right? And I'm deaf. You know, from playing guitar all my life, I like heavy metal, and I don't hear too good anymore. Okay, so
well, my eardrums when I was younger.
Yeah, my eardrums are shot. But anyway, so we're walking around and we're seeing now after we do the wood knock, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the veil is lifted. And again, we start finding breaks and bends and arches and X and all this shit. And I'm being drawn into the woods, deep into the woods. And he's following me. And he's like, where you going? I said, I don't know. I'm being drawn in. And he goes, you know, all right. So he's following me. He goes, well, let's go wherever you're being drawn. And we get to this tree, this giant fucking oak tree. Okay. And this tree has other trees jammed up in it. If you took an umbrella and opened it up and took all the skin off of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it looked like. And the trees that were jammed up into this giant oak, hand to God, are 40, 50 feet long, okay? And they're this thick, and they're jammed up into this giant, and we got pictures of it, like what? But the crazy thing is, the bottom of those trees that are jammed up are 10, 12 feet off the ground. None of them are touching the ground.
They're strung up in the tree, huh?
And it's like a complete circle. And we walked around the whole thing and we were looking at it and we're like, what the fuck? This is not Bigfoot, man.
No,
what the
fuck something. What
did this, right? And again, I'm being drawn deeper into the woods. And then and all of a sudden, Brian kind of passes me and he's getting way ahead of me. And I go, Brian, stop. And he goes, what? I go, stop. I says, I feel like we're being drawn into a trap. I said, we got to get the fuck out of here. He goes, okay, if you, because I got the vibe. That was the vibe I got. He says, okay. So he backs out. We back out together. We get pictures of this crazy tree structure thing, right? And we jump in the car. We go to the diner. We grab a bite to eat. We get some coffee. We wait till the sun comes down. Now the sun comes down. We park across the street. There's like a hiking trail, right? That leads up into the woods. There's one street light on this block, and there's just enough room on the sidewalk for my Jeep. So, because I don't even know if we could park on the streets in this place, right? So I park up on the grass underneath this street light. We walk across the street with our headlamps on. We walk into the woods. We set up behind this giant monument, right? It's got to be 5 feet high, 8 feet wide. We set up behind it. We're sitting there. We're filming with, again, all different spectrums of light, all different cameras, all different kinds of recorders going set to different frequencies. And we're sitting there and we hear a quad runner coming in. Wah, 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 wah. So Brian goes, oh shit, it's the, because we know this place has security, because the security guards that we met at the insane asylum were the ones that told us to go to this place and investigate it, right? So we think it's the insane asylum security, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these two kids stop on the other side of the monument, and they're talking to one another. Which way did they go? I don't know. Do you see them? I don't see them. They got to be around here somewhere. And they blow past us, and they drive up into the woods, and you can see the headlight on the quad runner going all through the woods, looking for us. Now that they come down, obviously they see us because their headlight is right on us. So they're like, what are you guys doing here? And I'm like, well, we're a paranormal team, and we're doing an investigation, and I'd love to interview you guys. Oh, no, we're not doing any interviews. And if you knew it was good for you, you guys get the hell out of here. And I'm like, yeah, well, we're not leaving. We're going to be here for a while. So they leave. Okay. We set up our shit, and it's crazy. Now, all of a sudden, the fog rolls in. It looks like something.
Cryptids and fog, man. Something out of a movie.
It looks like something out of a Hollywood movie, I swear to God. And the temperature is dropping. It's getting fucking cold, right? and the fog rolls in, and it's getting eerie,
Mhm.
and we hear something going off in the woods, like where my car is. Again, we heard the dogs going off at night,
Mhm.
and then this thing went off, and the dogs stopped barking, and we got it on video. Brian goes, I go, it sounds like a really mad German Shepherd, a big dog.
Mhm.
And then Brian goes, do you hear that? And we got this all on recording. He goes, you hear that? And I go, no. I go, nope. I'm on drugs. I go, nope. He goes, I just heard a growl. I go, oh, you're out of your fucking mind. I don't know how he caught it, but I don't know if the thing was in between us
Mhm.
or where it was, but we got a growl in between our conversation. You hear something go, "Rrr." I don't know if it was demonic or if it was a dog man or
I just
what it
got chills,
was,
man, just thinking
but
of that. That's just
Brian heard it audibly. You know what I mean? I didn't hear
wow.
it until we played back the video and he amped it up. He amped up the volume. So we're sitting there and we're filming and we got all kinds of shit going on. EVPs, everything is just going crazy. This place is like a gold mine for paranormal shit, right? And then all of a sudden we had a quad runner come in again, right? The quad runner comes in. I swear to God, it stops on the other side of the monument, and they have the same conversation. Do you see him? No, I don't see him. Where are they? I don't know. They must be somewhere. And it drives off, and it does the same fucking thing. And I look at Brian, and I go, "Is this deja vu, or am I losing my fucking mind?" Right? They come down, they see us again, and they ask us what we're doing, and I tell them, look, I want to interview you guys. We don't have to do a camera interview. We'll just do audio. You don't have to tell us your names. We just want to get some, info from locals, And they're like, dude, if you knew it was good for you, you would get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
I was
And
like, I'm staying right here.
and they leave, and when they left, the fog dissipated, the moon came back out. It was a crystal clear night, but it got so cold. I checked the thermal, I had a thermal thermometer on me and I checked the thermal thermometer and it went from like 40 degrees to like 20, dropped like 20 degrees. And it was cold. And I was like, Bri, I'm freezing my ass off. Let's go. And he says, okay. So we pack up all our shit and we head out. And as we get out from the woods to where the street is, you have a 2-lane street in front of us. My car's across the street, underneath that one street lamp, next to that trail that runs up and down. And we both have our headlamps on because we came out of the darkness, and we both see yellow eye shine by the car. So
Oh
we
man.
both stop. We stop on the other side of the street. We got no weapons on us. All we got is like pepper spray, right?
Mhm.
And I go, do you see the yellow eyes? He goes, yeah, I see him. He goes, what do you think it is? I said, well, I know deer, some like the does have green eyes and the male have yellow eyes. It could be a buck or something. And he's like, I don't know, Al. That thing looks like it's about 5 feet tall. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And the feeling I was getting and that it was something sitting on its haunches in the woods hunting that trail. Now, I don't know if it was hunting deer that used that, or if it's seen my Jeep there and it does some fucking asshole was running at night and it was going to take whoever came out of the woods to go to that Jeep. But we came out from the other side of the street, so we seen it. So as we get closer to the Jeep, I said, well, if it's a deer, it'll run. You get
Yeah.
closer to the Jeep. We're 10 feet away from this fucking thing. It's in the woods. Um, you can't really see it. You can see its shape. You can see its eyes. And it's looking at us. And I got a bad feeling, bro. I go, bro, I got a bad feeling about this. I said, I got the Jeep door open. I'm loading up all the equipment into the Jeep. And he goes, I got to piss. I was like, no, you're not pissing here, bro. I said, get in the fucking Jeep.
Get in the
Yeah,
Jeep.
well, you could piss on the other side of the street. Let's put the street between us. And he goes, no, you don't understand. I got to piss. And I'm like, Bri, I'm not taking my eyes off this fucking thing because I don't know what it is. And we got no fucking weapons. The pepper spray. And I'm like, dude, get in the fucking Jeep. He goes, I can't. I got to piss. I go, Bri, get in the fucking Jeep. Or I'm going to leave you here. he goes, "No, I gotta piss." I go, "Motherfucker!" I said, "I can't leave him there because how do I explain to his wife? I
Yeah.
I left him there."
Left Brian
So,
behind.
so he's pissing. I'm watching this thing. I close the back of the Jeep. I get in the Jeep. I back up as close to him as I can, and I throw open the passenger side door to put that between him and this thing, because this thing is not moving. It's just sitting there looking at him, piss, and it's no further than 10 feet away from him. Then all of a sudden, I get back out of the Jeep and I get over to him, because I want to be there in case something goes down. And all of a sudden, this thing, when I say it goes dark, I think it shut its eyes and it got down in its belly and it started crawling over towards us. Because I don't believe that this thing was leaving. This thing was hunting. And Brian was sitting there pissing with his back to this thing. So to him, I know Brian thinks that's whatchamacallit, marking his territory, but you had your back to this creature, which is an easy attack,
Yeah.
So once this thing goes dark, I said, "Listen, get your fat fucking ass in the Jeep or I'm leaving you here." I got in the Jeep and I closed the door. When he heard me get in and close the door, he stopped pissing and he jumped in the Jeep. He slammed the door behind him and I did a fucking 360 out of there as fast as I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he goes, "What do you think it's doing?" I go, "What do you think it was doing?" "It was hunting you, bro. It had dropped down to all fours. It was belly crawling on you. And even with my headlamp on, I couldn't see. The minute it shut its eyes or closed the light off in its eyes, I don't know what it did, but those yellow eyes went dark. As soon as it did that, it was gone. To me, it looked invisible. Like I couldn't see it anymore, But my gut and the vibe I was getting was saying, this thing is belly crawling towards Brian and is going to grab his ass any minute. And we got our fucking asses out of there and we never went back. We was like, you know what? Fuck that place. I ain't dealing with that shit. Bad enough. You got to deal with the ghost in the cemetery. You got to deal with Dogman, and because that's what we think made that structure. We think it was a Dogman structure
Mhm.
because they're always
Wow.
around cemeteries anyway. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Like they're guardians or something
Yeah.
of the, graves or
And
something.
and,
It's
and
crazy.
and like I said, Brian is the only guy I ever know who pissed in front of a Dogman. And all the
It had his
stories
back turned towards it.
every story I've ever fucking heard. And the only reason is because if he didn't piss right then and there, he would have pissed his pants.
Oh
I
yeah.
couldn't get him to go in the car and get to the other side of the street. It would have took us 10 seconds to get to the other side of the street. He
Yeah.
couldn't hold it any longer. That's how bad he had to go. And he didn't want to piss in the cemetery because he didn't want to, disrespect the dead.
Yeah. No,
So
I
it was
totally
waiting to
understand.
get, yeah, it was waiting to get to the other side of the woods, but there was something on the other side of the woods hunting. And I think whatever that creature was, and I would bet my bottom dollar was a Dogman, it was hunting whoever it thought belonged to that car, because I
Oh
could see people in this area where these two releases that, these young executives that get off and they go running at night because it's cooler and they run through the woods and shit, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
just one guy by himself, boom, gets grabbed. Just they find the car, but they never find him. Oh yeah,
Wow.
there's no doubt in my mind. It was hunting, and I think it would have took whatever came its way, whether a deer would have went by, it would have, or if a human would have came by, it would.
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
No,
was.
it was gonna
We
get
were
whoever.
we were lucky that there was two of us there that night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you said, maybe it startled it and like, oh shit, that's these guys, but there's two of them. So
No, I don't think we startled it because I think it seen us coming from across the street with the headlamps on.
oh, okay.
You
So
know
it
what I
was
mean?
observing you the whole time. Then as it
Yeah,
saw you
no,
guys.
yeah. I think it was looking at us because it seen us come out of the woods with the headlamps. Because it
Mhm.
probably seen us while we were still in the woods with the headlamps.
Yeah.
And the whole time we were across the street discussing what it was. It was looking at us and we were looking at it.
Mhm.
There was no ands, ifs, and buts about it. We were everybody was um, feeling each other out. You know what I mean?
Man.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy fucking night, and I swear to God, There's no doubt in my mind it was a Dogman, and there's no doubt in my mind if Brian would have been there by himself and he took that piss by himself, he would have been a 411. You know what I
I was
mean?
just gonna get that. I was just gonna ask you. Brian probably would have been a 411. He would have been
Yeah.
the on David Pilates,
Yeah.
So yeah, thank God you guys were there. That's why that little thing in the back of your head that's always telling you, it's like, hey, it's better that you both went out there together.
Yeah, and I said, "What am I gonna do? How am I gonna protect this fucking asshole because he won't get in the car?" You know. And I was like, "I'm gonna back up as close as I can to him and
Mhm.
open up the passenger door and put that door between him and it." You know what I mean? That was the
Yeah,
only thing I could think of doing at the time. You know.
protect your best friend, brother. You do
Yeah,
the right thing.
just that little bit of buffer. Maybe that's all he needed to, if that thing would have pounced, maybe that door would have been enough just to keep it off of him so he could have gotten to the car, Because,
Yeah,
like I said, we were unarmed that night, I don't think
mhm.
the pepper spray would have slowed it down any.
Yeah, especially that he had his back turned towards it. It's like I'm just gonna, you gotta go.
No, I
So
mean, and he had to go. There was no two ways about it. I'm telling him, dude, get your fat fucking ass in the car. I'm gonna leave you here. And he goes, well, then you're gonna have to leave me here because I gotta piss, bro. And I'm like, oh my god.
yeah, no, that's awesome. I've never heard that actual encounter. I've heard it being mentioned, but I've never heard it. And hearing it from you and you going into detail, it's got to be the
Yeah,
scariest
and
Dogman
Brian always
story.
says he's like 20 feet away. There was
Uh,
no way he was 20 feet away from that thing. I would say between 8 and 10 feet at the most.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it
That
was
thing was, if
close.
it wanted to, at one leap, it could have taken Brian down,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah,
Wow.
it could have jumped out from where it was and just on his back and took him down. And it wouldn't have been a fucking thing I could have done to get it off him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, you know what? From now on, I'm leaving my fucking 10-inch survival knife in the car no matter where we go because I'm not feeling unarmed anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, it was crazy night. We got so much shit in that growl. Like he heard it with his own audibly. I didn't hear it, and I was just, but like I said, I knew I had something attached to me that day. That was
Mhm.
the first time I ever had an attachment, but I think it wasn't anything dark and negative. I just think it was something that seen my energy and wanted to, maybe feed off of it or whatever, you know what I mean? Or was interested in what we were doing and wanted to know what the hell we were doing. Because as soon as we left to go to the diner, it detached from me.
Uh-huh.
And then when we came back, I don't remember feeling like it did during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those are my Dogman stories. Crazy shit. I mean, like I said, they come to my house. So it's like, I
Yeah.
got I
Just
got
you
all
with
kinds of
your,
hunting rifles in the closet. You know what I mean? Like, let's see, do I get the shotgun, the 30-06? What am I using here? What's the biggest round I got?
man, if I ever get up to New York, I'm gonna have to come out over and investigate with you, brother. I would
Oh,
love to do that.
absolutely, yeah,
Just,
yeah.
I know you're not really going out like you say as much right now, right? You're just trying
Well,
to,
I'm nursing ankle surgery. So right
yeah,
now,
okay,
once the ankle, I'm started my physical therapy now. So once I'm done with the physical therapy, I'm gonna start going back out again, squatching and stuff.
hmm
I do. I go where I go. You know what I mean. So I was invited to go out with another paranormal team
hmm
to a place called Museum Village. Okay, it's like this village they built in the middle of the woods, right?
hmm
And we were there, and I was with with a bunch of other paranormalists. They invited me out with them. So I went out with them, and it was funny. There was like 20 buildings at this place. That's why it's called the village. But the
hmm
people were only investigating 4 of them, and each they got my name and the EVP in each building we were in. They
What?
called me the next day. They say, dude, you remember when you were in the schoolhouse? I was like, yeah. He goes, we got your name. Remember when you were in the general store? Yeah, we got your name. Every single place. And I heard it come through the what you call SB7 spirit box at one point
hmm
because not only did it say Al, but it said Santi. And my last name is Santariga, so it said Al
hmm
Santi. And I was like, oh, they're definitely talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Carlito calls you, man, you're the godfather of cryptid and paranormal. So
But I mean, it
that's
was weird. It was weird.
man.
And it was funny because when I was in those, every time I was in one of those buildings, you know what I mean?
Um,
I would get nauseous, and I would leave before they ever got to like the EVP session. I was doing like all my own shit, right? And then I would get nauseous, and I would leave, and then they would do the EVP stuff after I left, and they would get my name, you know. So I wasn't even in the building at the time. All four of the buildings. I was only in one building when I heard it come through the SB7 Spirit Box. That was a general floor. But the other three buildings I had already walked out of because I wasn't feeling well.
mhm.
And as soon as I walked out, they got my name. You know, I forgot what it said, like "Where's Al" or some shit like that. You know, it was crazy.
Like Laura said, it's your energy, man. And they're just if they're calling you by your name first and last. I mean,
Yeah, you know, and like I said, so I mean, I got a couple of paranormal things coming up on the schedule now that my ankle's getting better, and I
mhm.
got a couple of Squatch stuff coming up as well. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, up here, everywhere there's Squatch, there's Dogmen. You know what I mean? So I'm not necessarily going out looking for the Dogman anymore,
Mhm.
but I won't be surprised if I run across them in my travels, only because they seem to whoever the Squatches are, they are as well. You
Yeah,
know?
I always wondered that you think they would not be by each other, but it always seems like they're coinciding or pretty much next door neighbors. You know.
Yeah, no, I think they both have very large ranges, and I
Mhm.
think there may be areas where their ranges intercross each other. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? So, and but I believe, and this is just one man's theory. You know,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I believe that they don't actually migrate from like New York to South Carolina. I think they rotate on their territory, and I think they try to be where the dogmen aren't. You know, like if the ranges cross, they
Mhm.
want to be there when the dogmen are at the far end of the range, and vice versa. Because I think if they're both there at the same time, shit may hit the fan. You know.
No, that's a very good theory, and I totally would take that into consideration and use that too because it makes sense.
And I found a location one time where I believe that they intercross, right?
Mhm.
And I went back to this location. I was there on one weekend. I was there, and it was pristine. The woods were pristine. And I went back the next weekend, and the woods were destroyed. I mean, destroyed. And I was like, "What the hell can do this?" I'm like, people, the forest rangers are telling me, "Oh, it's like a thermal burst." I was like, okay, if it was a thermal burst, then all their trees would be in one direction. You
Mhm.
know, whichever way the bursted, you know, if the trees would go down. But these trees were down in every direction. It was like a tornado hit that one area, knocked everything down, and then left. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not buying a tornado because we've never had a tornado touch down here. We don't get a lot of tornadoes up here because of the mountains we have around us. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Protect you guys.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
surrounded by mountain ranges, and so we don't get tons of tornado. But every now and then we do get a thermal burst. But like I said, the thermal burst is going to knock all the trees down in one direction.
One
It's
direction.
not
Yeah.
going to knock them down. And I think, and it's just the vibe I got, and I can't explain it. It's just the vibe I got when I was there that the shit hit the fan there. And I think there was an all out fucking
Fight.
knockdown, drag out battle. Yeah.
That's what. Yeah. It sounds like it.
They just destroyed the woods until they got tired of fighting with each other and went their separate ways. You know what I mean? Because this is the same area. The first time I went through there, I found these little stone cairns up on cliffs, right? And they're little like rock figurines, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be like a mountain goat to get up there where these things were. And the
Mhm.
first time I seen them, it freaked me out. I thought it was like Blair Witch kind of shit. You know what I mean? I was like, what the hell is that? And how did it get up there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Wow. It's just.
I don't know if those carrings were put on that border as a marker, to let each other know. Like I said, because I always felt like the east side of the woods was the Dogman territory,
Mhm.
and the west side was the Sasquatch territory. And it's just, I don't know why I felt that. It's not like anybody told me that, any histories. It was just the vibe I got. And it was that east side where I found those 3 stones set up in a pyramid shape.
Mhm.
And then at the end of the night when we were doing all our experiments, I knocked them over. I was like, oh no. I just got
Bad luck.
I just got cursed, you know what I mean? I set them back up, but I know I knocked those bad boys over. I was
Now you're
like,
gonna be having Sasquatch around
oh
your
man,
house,
it was crazy, yeah. But
knocking
I
over
mean,
their totems and stuff.
yeah, no, I mean, it was crazy. Man, I could tell you stories about the sacred site that we found. My psychic believes it was a sacred site for the aliens as
Mhm.
well. She thinks they may have been mining like precious metals there, and she believes that the Sasquatches, after the Native Americans were driven out, the Sasquatches took it over as a sacred site. Because when
Mhm.
you go to this location, the energy is so peaceful. When I
Mhm.
tell you, I could sleep under this arch. There's this huge arch there. I could sleep underneath that arch in a sleeping bag and not worry about anything fucking with me at night.
Mhm.
Because I know the minute I get there, there's a scout up on a ridge watching me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've had many experiences where they come down and surround me and shit. And I know that the energy in that place is just so amazing. It's just so different when you get up there, because it's on a
It's
high
peaceful, huh? Like
plateau.
you said.
And dude, it's got these giant megalithic stones, okay? I mean, humongous size of a car,
Mhm.
lined up in a circle. It's like a giant circle. And then
Like a New York Stonehenge, would you say? Like
that's
that?
that's what somebody called it. Yeah,
Uh,
uh, we we did show it to somebody who was like an archaeologist, and they thought we were in Ireland. I was like, no, we're in New York. But these giant megalithic stones
mhm.
have thousands and thousands of other stones on top of them.
What?
Crazy! It's crazy. The energy inside that ring is
Mhm.
just off the charts. And I
Wow.
told people, like, I've brought people up over the years to the sacred site, and I've told people, whatever you do, don't panic. Don't have any high anxiety, because we're at the sacred site and nothing bad is going to happen to us here. Nothing bad. I've never had anything bad happen to me there. Yeah, I've had stones thrown at me, and
Well,
I've
yeah,
had,
that's just
trees broken, branches broken. When they want you to leave, they let you know. It's time for you to go, and we want to hunt, so get the hell out of here.
time to
But
leave.
yeah, time to leave. And when they tell me it's time to leave, I leave. Like I always say, they tolerate me there.
Yeah.
I never go up over the ridge. I just feel like beyond that ridge is their home range. And I
Mhm.
would never go up over that ridge. I had a
You know your
dream.
boundary, right?
I had a dream one night that I seen a baby footprint
Mhm.
on the way up the ridge. And I told Brian about it. He said, "Well, we got to go." He goes, that was a premonition. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go." And we went up, and I said, "Brian, I don't like going up this ridge. I've never gone up it before. I feel like I'm not supposed to be there, but I don't know what this dream means."
Mhm.
And it's showing me a baby Sasquatch print on the ridge. So we went up there. We found the print. It was there. And I got to the top of the ridge, and I looked down over the range, and it was like a giant meadow that just went on forever. And I was like, okay, this is their home range, and I'm not going down into this meadow. I will never go down there. I say it out loud like a crazy person. I'm not coming down into your range. This is your range. This is your home.
Sign of
I'm not.
respect.
Yeah, out of respect. Like I said, I would have never even went up the ridge if I didn't have the dream about the footprint.
Mhm.
And I think
No.
they wanted me to go up there. I think they were telling me. Someone told me that They've been trying to communicate with me mental telepathy wise for years, but my head is just going too fast. I can't focus, you know?
Hmm.
So 2 years ago, I had an awakening or an ascension. I don't know how you call it, but had
Hmm.
something happen to me. And I was told that my consciousness is like really, really high now. And that if I go there now I'll be able to communicate because my mind isn't as crazy as it used to be when I was up there, you know?
Hmm.
And they said, Al, you were getting messages, but they were just coming through in waves because your brain just won't stop thinking, you know? And I said, look, I've been doing martial arts my whole life. I got 5 different colored belts. And every time the sensei said, let's meditate, I couldn't focus for 10 seconds. My brain was all over the place, you know?
100
I'm,
RPMs.
I'm like not a meditator kind of guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But apparently I've had this epiphany, awakening, ascension. I don't know what the fuck you call it, but you know, I can't wait to get out there now and try mental telepathy communication with them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm dying to get back out there now.
Well, Al, we're coming on the 2 hour mark, brother, and I know your ankle.
Wow.
Hopefully, it gets better, you know, and you can get out there. And I'd love to do a part 2 with you, and we can, you know, talk more about the paranormal and what you find Sasquatch wise, and hopefully you don't run into the dogmen. But like you said, they're probably going to be there. But did you have any closing comments you want to tell us or?
No, I mean, you know, if you have any questions for me, I know we didn't answer any questions tonight in the
Well,
chat or
yeah. Do you
whatever,
want to
but
do some comments right now? Let's.
if you,
Still
yeah,
got 4 minutes. We can do. Let's see. Guys, got any questions for Al? Sean said, "Congrats on the belts. That takes effort." Yes, congratulations. Oh, looks like I'm not seeing. I mean, for everyone that
all
did
right.
show up. Oh,
Well,
okay.
go ahead.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm not seeing any comment or asking or any questions, but yeah, no, everyone that showed up in the comments, Carlito, Sean, my mom showed up,
Oh,
Robbie
cool.
Rains, Laura, like I said, she was on here, very active. Steve Riley, Cryptid 559, he was on
Oh
there.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. I want to look
Great
at this
interview
shit.
the other
Yeah,
night with
yeah,
Carlito, brother.
absolutely.
He had another
Javier,
interview.
absolutely, man. I got a good vibe by you, bro.
Yes, I
Yeah,
can't wait to get out. He's just like an hour or two north from me, from out here in California. So hopefully, when
that's
my football
cool.
schedule gets you know, done and over, we can go out and investigate together. I've been really wanting to go out with him and see what, you know, we can find. He has a couple areas marked out. So, but
Cool.
Miriam, thanks for coming on, and Al, brother, thank you. This has been a true honor and pleasure, and I hope to do it again soon.
Pleasure's all mine anytime, brother. You just
All right.
hit me up and you got me anytime you want me.
Yeah, brother, and I'll still talk to you on Messenger and everything.
Oh,
So.
all the time, absolutely.
Well, you have a good evening, brother. Have a couple cold ones for us, and thanks
Yeah,
again.
I've been having them cold ones right now, so it's
Lucky,
all
I'm gonna go
good.
get some here with my dinner pretty soon. So,
Talk to you later.
all right, brother. You take care. Thanks. That was awesome, you guys. Al is technically the unofficial godfather of cryptid and paranormal in my book. I think Carlito told me that one. So, gosh, that was probably the best Dogman story I've heard today. I mean, there's a lot of good ones, but I didn't know the full detail with the whole Brian in the Jeep. So that was awesome, man. Hopefully Al gets better and he heals up and he can get out there and do some more investigations. Everyone that showed up tonight, thank you so much. This has been a true honor having you guys here with us, and catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much. You guys all have a great night.
This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power.